I didn't mean to read it. That's the part one keep going back to. Like it somehow makes everything that happened after a little less my fault. Like if I repeat it enough, it'll sound believable even to me. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't looking for anything. I just picked up Isaac's phone because it kept buzzing on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower, and I thought it might be important. That's it. That's the whole reason. At least, that's how it started. We'd been living together for almost a year at that point. Same apartment, same routines, same quiet understanding of each other's space. Isaac was the kind of guy who filled a room without trying, easy smile, relaxed posture, the kind of presence that made people trust him instantly. I wasn't like that. I noticed things, overthought things, stayed quiet when I probably shouldn't. Still, with him, it had always felt simple. We weren't officially anything. Not labeled, not defined. But we shared meals, late-night conversations, long walks that didn't feel like they needed a destination. Sometimes we'd fall asleep on opposite ends of the couch and wake up closer than we started. It was enough. Or at least, I told myself it was. That evening had been normal. We ordered takeout, argued about what to watch, ended up putting on something neither of us paid attention to. Isaac kept checking his phone more than usual, though. Not obviously. Just enough for me to notice. "You're popular tonight," I joked at one point. He smirked. "Jealous?" "Obviously," I said, rolling my eyes. He laughed it off, but he didn't show me the screen. I didn't think much of it then. Later, he got up, stretched, and said, "I'm gonna shower. Don't steal my food while I'm gone." "No promises," I replied. The moment the bathroom door closed, his phone buzzed again. Once, then twice, then again, like whoever was texting him wasn't planning to wait. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But it kept going. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I glanced over from the couch. The screen lit up briefly each time, but I couldn't see the messages from where I was sitting. Just the notification bar. Just enough to know it was the same person every time. Something in my chest tightened. Not jealousy. Not exactly. Just curiosity. The kind that starts small and grows teeth if you let it. Another buzz. I sighed, stood up, and walked over to the counter. "I'm just checking if it's urgent," I muttered to myself, like saying it out loud made it more legitimate. The screen lit up again the moment I picked it up. A name. No contact photo. Just a name I didn't recognize. And a message preview. "So you're just not going to tell him?" My stomach dropped. I don't know why that specific sentence hit the way it did. It could have meant anything. Work drama. Family stuff. Something completely unrelated to me. But it didn't feel unrelated. It felt pointed. I should have put the phone down right then. That would have been the normal thing to do. The respectful thing. The version of me I like to believe I was. Instead, my thumb hovered over the screen for half a second. Then I opened it. I wish I could say I hesitated longer. I didn't. The conversation was already there, pulled up. No passcode. No barrier. Just a thread of messages stretching back further than I expected. I told myself I'd only read the last one. Just context. Just enough to understand if it was something important. That's how I justified it. The last message again. "So you're just not going to tell him?" Below it, Isaac's reply. "I will. Just not yet." My chest tightened. Tell him what? I scrolled up. Just a little. Spencer deserves to know. Seeing my own name in someone else's message did something to me. Something sharp and immediate. Like stepping into a conversation that had been happening behind a closed door. My fingers went cold. I kept reading. "You're making this worse the longer you wait." "I know." "Then why are you still acting like nothing's happening?" There was a pause in the timestamps. A gap of a few minutes before Isaac responded. "Because I don't want to lose him." That should have been comforting. It wasn't. Because right under it. "Then maybe you shouldn't have started something you couldn't explain." I stopped breathing for a second. Started something. Couldn't explain. My mind immediately tried to fill in the blanks, jumping to conclusions I wasn't ready to face. No, it could still be something else. Something harmless. Something I was misunderstanding. I scrolled further. And that's when everything shifted. It didn't mean to happen like this. It never does. I care about him. But you're still talking to me every day. Silence on Isaac's side for a while. Then, "You're not exactly making it easy to stop." My grip on the phone tightened. I felt like I was standing in the middle of something I was never supposed to see. Something private. Something unfinished. And yet, I couldn't stop. Because now it wasn't just curiosity. Now it was about me. About what I was to him. About what I wasn't. Another message came through right as I was staring at the screen, like the conversation was continuing in real time. Does he know how you look at him? My heart slammed against my ribs. Isaac's reply came almost instantly. No. A pause. Then, and I don't think I can hide it much longer. I froze. The sound of the shower turning off echoed faintly from down the hall. Reality rushed back in all at once. What was I doing? I locked the phone quickly and set it back on the counter exactly where it had been, like that could undo the last 5 minutes. Like I hadn't just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. My heart was still racing when Isaac walked back into the kitchen, towel slung over his shoulder, hair damp. Did my phone go off? He asked casually. I looked at him, really looked at him, at the same face I'd gotten used to, the same easy expression, the same person I thought I understood. Yeah, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. A few times. He nodded, picking it up without a second thought. And just like that, I knew something I wasn't supposed to know. The problem was, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every message I'd read like my brain was trying to solve a puzzle it didn't want the answer to. Every sentence felt heavier the more I thought about it. Not because it was clear, but because it wasn't. I don't want to lose him. You're still talking to me every day. Does he know how you look at him? I kept getting stuck on that last one. How you look at him? At me. I turned onto my side, facing the wall, trying to breathe through the tight feeling in my chest. There were too many possibilities, and none of them felt safe. Either Isaac was talking about someone else, and I was just collateral damage in whatever this was. Or, no, I didn't even want to finish that thought. Because if it was about me, then what? And if it wasn't, then what was I doing in that conversation at all? The next morning felt painfully normal. That was the worst part. Isaac was already in the kitchen when I walked out, making coffee like he always did. Same routine. Same quiet hum under his breath. Same everything. Morning, he said, glancing at me. Morning. I watched him for a second longer than usual, trying to see something different. Something that would confirm what I'd read. But he just looked like Isaac. Sleep okay? He asked. Yeah, I lied. He handed me a mug without thinking, our fingers brushing briefly. A small, familiar moment that suddenly felt loaded with meaning I didn't understand. Got any plans today? He continued. I leaned against the counter, forcing myself to act normal. Not really. You. Meeting a friend later, he said casually. There it was. My stomach tightened. A friend, I repeated, keeping my tone light. Yeah. He didn't elaborate. Didn't need to. I nodded, taking a sip of coffee just to have something to do. Cool. Cool. That word echoed in my head long after I said it. Because it wasn't cool. None of this was. The rest of the day dragged. I tried to distract myself, cleaned the apartment, answered emails, even went out for a walk, but nothing stuck. My mind kept circling back to the same place. The messages, the tone, the fact that someone out there knew something about me that I didn't. By the time evening rolled around, I was exhausted from thinking. Isaac was getting ready to leave when I finally couldn't take it anymore. He was by the door, pulling on his jacket, keys in hand. I'll be back later, he said. Isaac. He paused, looking at me. The words sat heavy on my tongue. Just ask. Just say it. Who were you texting? What aren't you telling me? What did you start? But instead, I hesitated. And that hesitation cost me. Yeah, he asked. I forced a small smile. Nothing. Never mind. He studied me for a second, like he knew something was off, but didn't push. Okay, he said. Don't wait up. And then he left. The door clicked shut behind him, and the apartment felt empty in a way it hadn't before. I stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. I should have asked. I knew I should have. But part of me wasn't ready to hear the answer. Hours passed. Too slowly. I tried watching something. Gave up. Tried scrolling through my phone. Gave up on that too. Around midnight, I heard the door open. Isaac stepped inside quietly, like he didn't want to wake me even though he knew I was probably still up. You awake? He called. Yeah, I answered from the couch. He walked in, loosening his jacket, tossing his keys onto the table. Hey. Hey. There was something different about him. Not obvious. Not dramatic. Just softer. Like he'd left something unresolved somewhere else. How was your friend? I asked. He paused for a fraction of a second. Good, he said. We talked. That wasn't an answer. What about? I pressed, before I could stop myself. His eyes flicked to mine. Stuff. Stuff. I let out a quiet breath, looking away. Right. Silence settled between us. Thick. Uncomfortable. He walked closer, stopping a few steps away from the couch. Spencer, he said slowly, is everything okay? I almost laughed. The irony of that question felt too sharp. You tell me, I replied. That got his attention. His expression shifted, just slightly. What's that supposed to mean? I hesitated again. But this time, I didn't back down. I saw your messages, I said. There it was. No taking it back. No softening it. Just the truth, sitting between us. Isaac went still. Not defensive. Not angry. Just still. You went through my phone? He asked quietly. I didn't go through it, I said quickly. It kept buzzing. I picked it up, and you read it, he finished. I swallowed. Yeah. A long silence followed. I expected him to get mad. He didn't. If anything, he looked tired. I was going to tell you, he said finally. That's what you said, I replied. In the messages. He winced slightly at that. Spencer, what did you mean? I cut in. About not wanting to lose me? About starting something. My voice wasn't loud, but it was steady, and that made it harder to ignore. Isaac ran a hand through his hair, pacing once across the room before stopping again. It's not what you think, he said. I let out a short, humorless laugh. I don't even know what to think. Good, he said, because you're probably assuming the worst. Then explain it. He looked at me, really looked, like he was trying to decide something important. And for the first time since I'd known him, Isaac didn't look confident. I've been talking to someone, he admitted. My chest tightened instantly. Okay, I said, even though it didn't feel okay at all. But it's not like that, he added quickly. That's exactly what someone says when it is like that. It's not, he insisted. I swear. Then what is it? He hesitated. And that hesitation told me more than his words. Isaac, his name came out quieter this time. Almost careful. Please don't lie to me. He exhaled slowly, then said something I wasn't expecting. It started because of you. Everything in me froze. What? He didn't look away. Those messages, he said. They're about you. My brain stalled. That doesn't make any sense. I know, he said. That's the problem. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it felt completely different. Because now I wasn't just confused. I was standing on the edge of something I didn't understand at all. And somehow, I had a feeling it was about to get worse. I stared at him, waiting for him to take it back. To laugh. To say he misspoke. To correct it into something that made sense again. He didn't. It started because of you. The sentence just hung there, like it didn't belong in the room with us. That doesn't, I shook my head. Isaac, that literally doesn't make sense. I know, he said again, quieter this time. I told you it's complicated. Then uncomplicated, I snapped. Because right now it sounds like you're talking to someone about me behind my back. I wasn't talking about you behind your back, he said quickly. I was talking because I didn't know how to talk to you. That slowed me down for half a second. About what? He hesitated. And there it was again, that pause. That exact same pause from the grocery store conversation, from the night before, from everything that suddenly felt connected. I need you to just listen for a second, he said. I crossed my arms, leaning back against the couch. I'm listening. He nodded once, like he was bracing himself. The person I've been texting, it's not someone I'm seeing, he started. Not like that. Then what are they? A friend, he said. Then, after a beat, someone who knows me better than most people. I didn't like that answer. Okay, I said slowly. And this friend knows about me. Yes. And thinks I deserve to know something. Yes. I let out a breath through my nose. You see how that sounds, right? I do, he said. That's why I didn't want you to find out like this. Well, too late. Silence flickered between us again, but this time it felt sharper, closer to breaking. Isaac, I said, more controlled now. What did you start? His jaw tightened slightly. I started realizing things I didn't know how to deal with. That wasn't enough. Like what? He looked at me. Not past me. Not around me. At me. And something in my chest shifted in a way I didn't like. Like the way I feel when you're around, he said. I blinked. What? You heard me. No. I heard the words. I said quickly. I just don't understand what you mean. His voice stayed steady. I mean, I started noticing you differently. The room felt smaller. Like the walls had moved in without warning. Differently how? He let out a slow breath. Spencer. The way he said my name this time, it wasn't casual. It wasn't automatic. It was careful. I didn't plan it, he continued. I didn't wake up one day and decide anything. It just happened. Over time, my heart started beating faster, but not in a way that felt good. More like my body was trying to catch up to something my brain was still refusing to process. You're saying this like it's supposed to explain something, I said. It doesn't. I know, he said, because I haven't said it clearly yet. Then say it clearly. He didn't hesitate this time. I caught feelings for you. The words landed hard. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just final. For a second, I honestly thought I misheard him. You what? I caught feelings for you. He repeated, quieter but just as certain. I let out a short breath that almost turned into a laugh, but didn't. That's not funny. I'm not joking. No, I mean, I ran a hand through my hair, pacing a step away from him. Isaac, we live together. We hang out. That doesn't mean. I know what it means, he cut in. I didn't confuse basic friendship with something else. Then why didn't you just tell me? I shot back. Because I didn't even understand it myself at first, he said. And when I did, I didn't want to ruin what we already had. That hit something. Because part of me understood that. I didn't want to, but I did. So instead, I said slowly, you talked to someone else about it. Yes. And let them tell you I deserve to know. Yes. And kept acting like nothing was happening. He didn't answer immediately. Yes. I shook my head, stepping back. Do you realize how messed up that is? I do, he said. That's why I was trying to figure it out before I said anything. By continuing whatever this is. I gestured vaguely toward his phone. I wasn't continuing anything, he said firmly. I was trying to stop. That made me pause. What? I told you, he said. They weren't making it easy. The message flashed back in my head instantly. You're not exactly making it easy to stop. So what? I frowned. They have feelings for you too? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. I let out a slow breath, trying to piece it together. So let me get this straight, I said. You realized you have feelings for me. And instead of telling me, you started talking to someone else who also has feelings for you? It wasn't like that, he said. It literally is like that. No, he insisted. I didn't go looking for it. It just happened at the same time. That doesn't make it better. I know, he said again, frustration creeping into his voice now. I know it doesn't. Silence fell again. But this time, it wasn't confusion. It was something heavier. Because now I understood the situation. And somehow, that made everything worse. I looked at him, really looked at him. You said you didn't want to lose me, I said quietly. I don't. Then why does this feel like I already have? That hit. I saw it in the way his expression shifted. The way his shoulders dropped slightly, like he didn't have a defense for that. Because I waited too long, he said. Yeah, I replied. You did. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. And for the first time since this started, it didn't feel like we were on the same side anymore. It felt like something had broken. And neither of us knew if it could be put back together. We didn't resolve it that night. That's the thing no one tells you. Sometimes the truth doesn't fix anything. It just changes the shape of the problem. Isaac didn't try to come closer. I didn't ask him to leave. We just existed in the same space, both too aware of everything that had just been said. I didn't plan for this, he said at one point, quieter now. Any of it. I believe you, I replied. And I did. That didn't make it easier. Then what happens now? He asked. I didn't have an answer. Because the situation wasn't simple. If he had just been talking to someone else, fine. That's a problem you understand. You deal with it. You move on. You decide what you're willing to accept. But this was something else entirely. You tell me, I said. You're the one who's been thinking about this longer. He let out a tired breath, sitting down on the edge of the chair like the weight of it had finally caught up to him. I stopped it, he said. What? The messages, he clarified. I ended it. Or, I'm trying to. That made something twist in my chest. Because of me? Yes. I held his gaze for a second. That's not enough. I know. Then why does it sound like you expect it to be? I don't, he said quickly. I didn't want you to think I was choosing someone else over you. I laughed quietly, shaking my head. You didn't choose me either. That landed. I was trying to, he said. Trying isn't the same thing. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't tense, it was honest. Uncomfortable, but real. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. I didn't know if you'd feel the same, he admitted. And I didn't want to risk losing you if I was wrong. And instead, I said, you risked it anyway. Yeah. At least he didn't deny it. I turned away from him, running a hand over the back of my neck. My thoughts felt tangled, like I couldn't hold on to one long enough to actually understand it. Do you still feel it? I asked. He didn't pretend not to understand the question. Yes. No hesitation. That should have made things clearer. It didn't. Even after everything, I pressed. Nothing about this has changed that, he said. I let out a slow breath. Because here's the part one hadn't said yet. The part I'd been avoiding since the moment I read those messages. Isaac. My voice came out quieter than I expected. I don't know what I feel. That was the truth. And saying it out loud felt like stepping onto unstable ground. He nodded slowly, like he'd expected that. I'm not asking you to know right now, he said. Good, I replied. Because I really don't. Another pause. Then I asked the question that had been sitting in the back of my mind since all of this started. The person you were talking to, do you have feelings for them too? He didn't answer immediately. But this time, I didn't rush him. I did, he said finally. Or I thought I did. That's not the same as no. No, he agreed. It's not. I swallowed, forcing myself to stay steady. And now, he looked at me. Now I know it wasn't the same. That didn't feel like a victory. It felt like pressure. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about him figuring himself out. Now it involved me in a way I hadn't agreed to. You're putting a lot on me, I said quietly. I know, he said. I don't want to. But you are. I don't have a version of this where I'm not, he admitted. That was probably the most honest thing he'd said all night. I sat down slowly, the distance between us still there, but smaller now. Not physically. Something else. I keep thinking about those messages, I said. About how someone else knew before I did. I didn't want it to be like that. But it was. I know. And they told you to tell me. Yes. I shook my head slightly. That's what gets me. Not even the feelings part. Just that I was the last one to know something about my own situation. His expression tightened. I get why you're upset. I'm not just upset, I said. I feel stupid. You're not. I read my own name in someone else's conversation like I wasn't even part of it. I continued. Do you understand how that feels? Yes, he said quietly. And I hate that I put you in that position. I studied him for a second. He meant that. That much was obvious. But meaning it didn't erase it. So what now? I asked again. This time, it wasn't avoidance. It was real. He leaned back slightly, giving me space without stepping away. We don't rush anything, he said. We don't pretend this didn't happen either. And what are we in the meantime? He hesitated. Still us, he said. I almost smiled at that. Yeah, I said. Except us doesn't mean the same thing anymore. No, he agreed. It doesn't. Another silence. But softer now. Less like something breaking. More like something shifting into place, even if we didn't fully understand what shape it was taking yet. I need time, I said. You can have it. And honesty, I added. You have that. I held his gaze. Completely. Yes. I nodded once. Okay. He didn't move closer. Didn't reach for me. And somehow, that made it easier to breathe. Because for the first time since this started, there was no hiding. No guessing. Just two people, sitting in the aftermath of something real, trying to figure out what to do with it. And for now, that had to be enough. The next few days were strange. Not bad. Not tense in an obvious way. Just different. Isaac didn't avoid me. That would have almost been easier. Instead, he stayed exactly where he always was: kitchen in the morning, couch in the evening, random conversations about nothing that somehow used to mean everything. Except now there was something underneath all of it. Awareness. Every look lasted a second too long. Every silence felt like it could turn into something else if either of us pushed it. And neither of us did. Not at first. You're overthinking again, Isaac said one night, glancing at me from across the couch. I scoffed lightly. I always overthink. Yeah, he said. But this is advanced level. I didn't deny it. Because he wasn't wrong. I don't know how to act around you right now, I admitted. That got his attention. You don't have to act any differently. That's easy for you to say, I replied. You already know how you feel. He went quiet for a second. That doesn't make it easier. I looked at him. Really? Yes, he said. Because now I have to sit here and not push you. Not rush you. Not make you feel like you owe me something just because I said it out loud. That slowed me down. Because I hadn't thought about it like that. You don't think I feel pressure? I asked. I do, he said. That's exactly what I'm trying to avoid. I leaned back into the couch, exhaling. That's the problem, I said. Everything feels like it matters now. It always did, he replied quietly. Not like this. He didn't argue with that. Because he knew I was right. Before, things had been easy because they were undefined. We didn't have to question anything, we just existed in it. Now every moment felt like it had weight. Like it meant something we hadn't agreed on yet. So what do we do? I asked. He shrugged slightly. We keep going. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have. I rubbed my face, frustrated, but not at him, just at the situation. I hate this middle space. Me too, he said. But rushing out of it doesn't fix anything. I sighed. Yeah, I know. Silence settled again, but it wasn't uncomfortable this time. Just thoughtful. After a while, Isaac spoke again. Can I ask you something? Depends. He almost smiled. Try me. I hesitated, then nodded. Okay. He shifted slightly, turning more toward me. When you read those messages, what did you think? I let out a quiet breath. Honestly, yeah. I thought you were hiding something from me, I said. Something that would change everything. And now, I looked at him. It still feels like that, I admitted. He nodded slowly. Fair. I studied his expression. You're not mad I read it? I'm not thrilled, he said. But I get it. That's not the same as being okay with it. No, he agreed. But I'd rather deal with this than keep pretending nothing was happening. That made sense. More than I expected it to. I didn't like seeing my name there, I said. I know. It felt like I was outside of something I should have been part of. I didn't mean for it to be like that. But it was. I know. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself. And that made it harder to stay upset. I kept rereading one part, I admitted. Which part? I hesitated, then said it anyway. Does he know how you look at him? Isaac went still. Yeah, he said quietly. What did they mean by that? He didn't answer right away. But when he did, it wasn't vague. It means I haven't been as subtle as I thought. My chest tightened slightly. Subtle about what? He looked at me, and for a second, it felt like everything slowed down. About wanting more than what we had. There it was again. Clear. Direct. No hiding. And somehow, hearing it like that, it hit differently than before. Not like a shock. More like something settling into place. I looked away first, because holding his gaze suddenly felt like too much. I don't know if I noticed, I said. You didn't, he replied. That's kind of the point. Or maybe I just didn't want to notice. That slipped out before I could stop it. Isaac didn't respond immediately. What does that mean, he asked. I swallowed. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm still figuring that out. And that was the truth. Because the more I thought about it, the more I started remembering things. Small things. The way he'd look at me sometimes, and then look away quickly. The way he always chose to sit closer, even when there was more space. The way certain moments felt charged, even when I ignored it. I hadn't questioned any of it before. Now I couldn't stop. Spencer, he said softly. I glanced back at him. I meant what I said, he continued. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not forcing anything. I just needed you to know. I nodded. I do know now. And I let out a slow breath. And I'm still here. Something in his expression softened at that. Okay, he said quietly. We didn't move closer. Didn't reach for each other. But something shifted again. Not into certainty. Not into resolution. But into something quieter. Something real. Because for the first time since everything came out, I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was starting to feel something too. And that scared me more than anything else. It didn't happen all at once. That would have been easier, some clear moment, some obvious shift where everything finally made sense. Instead, it was gradual, quiet, almost unnoticeable at first. I started paying attention. That was the difference. Before, I just existed around Isaac. Comfortable, unaware, taking everything at face value because there was no reason not to. Now I noticed everything. The way he paused before speaking sometimes, like he was choosing his words more carefully than before. The way his eyes lingered, just slightly, like he was checking my reaction without making it obvious. The space between us not big, not small, just intentional. And the worst part? I started responding to it. Not on purpose, just instinct. One night, we were sitting on the floor, backs against the couch, eating takeout straight from the containers. Something we'd done 100 times before. Nothing special, nothing new. Except this time, when I reached for my drink, our hands brushed and neither of us pulled away immediately. It lasted maybe a second longer than it should have, but it was enough. I felt it. That shift. And so did he. Neither of us said anything. We just kept eating like nothing happened. But everything had. Later that night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I think I'm starting to understand, I said. Isaac looked over at me from the other end of the couch. Understand what? I hesitated, then forced myself to be honest. What you meant. He didn't move, didn't interrupt, just waited. It's not sudden, I continued slowly. It's not like I woke up and everything changed. That's not how it works, he said quietly. I know that now, I replied. Silence settled between us again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was careful. What does it feel like? He asked after a moment. I let out a small breath. Confusing. He almost smiled. Yeah, that sounds about right. I shook my head slightly. No, I mean, it's not just confusion. It's... I stopped, because saying it out loud suddenly felt like crossing another line. Say it, he said gently. I looked at him. You, I admitted. That was the simplest way to put it. And somehow, the most accurate. His expression changed not dramatically, but enough. Me, he repeated. I nodded. When you're around, it's different now, I said. Or maybe it always was, and I just didn't notice. He didn't rush to respond. Didn't take advantage of the moment. He just listened. That scares me, I added. I know. Because if I'm right, then everything changes. Yeah, he said softly. It does. I leaned back into the couch, staring at the ceiling. I don't want to lose what we already have. You won't, he said. You can't promise that. No, he admitted. I can't. At least he was honest. I just don't want this to become something we regret, I said. He was quiet for a second. Then, I think I'd regret not trying more. That hit deeper than I expected. I turned my head slightly, looking at him again. You've already thought this through. For a while, he said. And you still think it's worth it? Yes. No hesitation. I swallowed. Because now it wasn't just about him anymore. Now it was about me deciding too. What if it ruins everything? I asked. He held my gaze. Then at least it was real. That answer stayed with me. Long after the conversation ended. Long after we both went quiet. Because for the first time, I wasn't just afraid of losing what we had. I was starting to wonder what it would be like to have more. And that thought, that was new. That was dangerous. And I didn't know how to stop it anymore. The first real shift didn't come from some big moment. No dramatic confession. No sudden decision. It came from something small. Quiet. Almost easy to miss. It was late. We'd both stayed up longer than usual, sitting across from each other, talking about nothing important. The kind of conversation that drifts without direction but somehow keeps you there. At some point, the words slowed. Not awkward. Just unnecessary. I don't remember what he said right before it happened. Something casual. Something that didn't matter. What I do remember is the silence after. And the way neither of us rushed to fill it. Isaac was looking at me. Not intensely. Not like before, when I'd started noticing those glances. This time it was open. Like he wasn't trying to hide it anymore. And for the first time, I didn't look away. That was new. That was the difference. Spencer, he said quietly. Yeah. He hesitated. Not like before. Not uncertain. Just careful. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. I let out a small breath. I know. Then stopped trying to. I almost smiled at that. Not really my strength. I've noticed, he said. There was something softer in his voice now. Something that made the space between us feel closer, even though neither of us had moved. I keep thinking about what you said, I admitted. Which part? That you'd regret not trying. He nodded slightly. Yeah. I swallowed. And I paused, searching for the right words. I think I might feel the same. That was it. That was the moment. Not loud. Not overwhelming. Just honest. Isaac didn't react immediately. Didn't rush toward me. Didn't turn it into something bigger than it was. He just looked at me. And I saw it. Relief. Not because he won, but because I met him halfway. That's enough, he said quietly. Enough. For now, he explained. We don't need to turn this into something all at once. I nodded. Because that made sense. More than anything else had so far. I don't want to mess this up, I said. You won't, he replied. You keep saying that. And you keep not believing me. Because you can't guarantee it. No, he said. But I can choose to not run from it. That hit. Because that's exactly what I'd been doing. Running from the possibility. From the change. From everything this could become. I'm not good at this, I admitted. Neither am I, he said. But you seem calmer about it. I'm not calmer, he said. I just had more time to get used to it. That made sense. I exhaled slowly, letting that settle. So what now? I asked. This time, the question didn't feel heavy. It felt real. He thought about it for a second. Now we stop pretending this is nothing, he said. And start pretending it's something? I asked. He shook his head slightly. No pretending. That was simple. And somehow, exactly what I needed to hear. Silence fell again. But this time, it wasn't uncertainty. It wasn't distance. It was something else entirely. Something steady. I shifted slightly on the couch, not even fully aware I was doing it. Just closer. Not a lot. Just enough. Isaac noticed. Of course he did. But he didn't comment on it. Didn't make it bigger than it was. He just stayed. And that mattered more than anything. Because for the first time, there was no confusion about what this was becoming. It wasn't defined. It wasn't labeled. But it wasn't hidden anymore either. And somehow, that felt like the most important step of all. I'm still scared, I said after a while. I know. But I'm not pulling away. I know that too. I glanced at him. You always this sure about things? He shook his head slightly. Only when it comes to you. That should have overwhelmed me. A week ago it would have. Now, it just felt real. And maybe that's what changed everything. Not the feelings themselves, but the fact that we finally stopped avoiding them. And instead, we stayed. Things didn't explode after that. No sudden shift into something dramatic. No moment where everything became clear and easy. If anything, it became quieter, more intentional. We didn't rush into calling it anything. We didn't sit down and define rules or expectations. That would have felt forced, like trying to control something that was still figuring itself out. Instead, we just adjusted. Naturally, subtly, and somehow, that made it feel more real than anything else could have. A few days after that conversation, we went out together. Nothing special. Just coffee. A walk after. The kind of thing we'd done dozens of times before. But this time, I noticed something. I wasn't overthinking every step. I wasn't analyzing every glance or every word. I was just there, with him. At one point, we stopped at a crosswalk, waiting for the light to change. People moved around us, conversations blending into the background, the city loud in that distant, familiar way. Isaac was standing next to me. Close. Not unusually close. Just present. And for the first time, I didn't question it. Didn't pull away internally. Didn't ask myself what it meant. I just let it be what it was. Where'd you go? He asked lightly. I blinked, realizing I'd drifted for a second. Nowhere, I said. Then, after a pause, actually here. He smiled at that. Good. The light changed. We crossed. Simple moment. But something about it stuck. Because I realized I wasn't stuck in my head anymore. Later that night, back at the apartment, we ended up on the couch again. Same as always. Except not the same. You're different, Isaac said. I glanced at him. How? Quieter, he said. But not in a bad way. I thought about that. Less confused, maybe, I admitted. That sounds like progress. It is, I said. I think. He didn't push for more. Didn't ask me to explain it further. And I appreciated that more than I could put into words. Because the truth was, I had figured something out. Not everything. Not some grand, final answer. Just one thing. I don't regret finding out, I said after a while. Isaac turned his head slightly toward me. Even the way you did. I nodded. Yeah, I said. Even that. He studied me for a second. Why? I exhaled slowly. Because if I hadn't read those messages, we'd still be pretending. That's true. And I don't think I want that anymore. Something softened in his expression. Neither do I, he said. Silence followed. But it wasn't empty. It was full of everything we didn't need to say out loud. I was really mad at you, I admitted. I know. And honestly, I still kind of am. Fair. But not because of how you feel, I added. Just how you handled it. I deserve that. Yes, I said simply. He nodded, accepting it without argument. And that mattered. Because this, whatever we were becoming, it wasn't built on perfect timing or perfect decisions. It was built on honesty, even the uncomfortable kind. I don't know what this is yet, I said. You don't have to. I know, I replied. But I do know one thing. What? I looked at him. Not avoiding it this time. Not overthinking it. Just steady. I don't want to go back to how it was before. That was the truth. Clear. Simple. Final. Isaac held my gaze, something calm and certain settling in his expression. Then we won't, he said. No promises. No pressure. Just that. And for the first time since all of this started, that felt like enough. Because whatever this was, it wasn't hidden anymore. It wasn't one-sided. And it wasn't something happening in the background of someone else's conversation. It was ours. Out in the open. Real. And finally, something we were both choosing.